I'm now inside the compound for the Confucius temple. This is part of the forest of 190 stelae that recorded 13 Confucian classics consisting of 630,000 Chinese characters. Some of it must have worn off as it seems smooth there, but others, like and on the sides here, you can see what looks like it might have been evidence of past inscriptions that have now too badly weathered. And there's another forest on the other side. Notice the similarity here between what we've seen newly constructed across from my hostel, but elsewhere. Very lovely drum, but rather simple design other than the scalloping at the bottom. Damn tour groups that make it damn sure that you're not going to enjoy your experience. The guidebook refers to near fossilized cypress trees in the back here. You can get a sense of what they're talking about. This was also the Imperial College. Of what and for what, I'm not sure. But there's been a long history of a bureaucratic examination, not cult, but something more pragmatic than that. Apparently the stone tablet here was created to commemorate the 1725 suppression of a revolt in Shanghai province. And this is the guqin, or sacred turtle, of the Chinese. Apparently this whole slew of individual buildings with very lovely roofs on them, but quite typical, were used to commemorate just various things that were considered great by whoever had the power to do that. And oftentimes it was to commemorate suppression of riots, which is encouraging. It shows that at least there was some attempt against the powers that be to overthrow them. It seems staggering, in my opinion, that for so many centuries and so many cultures, the massive masses somehow chose to endure rather than rise up, or at least were so controlled they could not do that against the powers that controlled them. One of the sad notes, on the other hand, of this site is when in 1966, August, some pile of masses commandeered Lao She, a now renowned and revered writer, whose book I'm just finishing of short stories, and they forced him here, forced him onto his knees in front of a bonfire, and a bonfire of Beijing opera costumes, to confess his anti-revolutionary crimes, and then he was severely beaten. The next day he committed suicide in Taiping Lake. Here is a courtyard of large, sometimes dead, cedars. It's nice to see a place that specifically reveres trees and treats them as a monument within their revered and holy places. You almost wonder if the artist doesn't seek a blend of green and blue to mimic the green and blue when looking up at the sky from a forest floor. Here, ceremonial drum, and apparently some kind of a drum there, and then a small bank of chime drums, or whatever you want to call them there. Chinese instrument, probably the one we hear so much that makes that plucking sound. These look like they could be violin type instruments as well. I'll have to look in my guide and see what kind they are. Here's a similar kind of a sculpture in a similar analogous location as you find at the Forbidden City. the sea we just saw at the bottom there. Perhaps some kinds of creatures, certainly serpents there, if not dragons. What the difference might be, I don't know. There the dragon with a claw foot holding a ball, which may represent, as it does for that male lion, the sphere of earth. There the dragon's head. And here the feet almost look like those of a frog rather than claw-like of a lion. They were a mixture of several different animals. Here a rather large sacrificial furnace, if you will, glazed stone. Notice that the typical temple icons on top. It's called a Liu Li Pai Feng, or glazed archway. Here's an interesting little sculpture. It's a serpent in the water. So this is classic Chinese architectural design and layout. A moat surrounding the square base indicating earth. And then the rounded top indicating heaven. We forget what the significance of the slightly upturned roofs that are so classically Oriental, if not just Chinese. More what we now know to be incense burners and sacrifice. Huge triangular corner supports, it looks like, for an otherwise totally flat roof. It may be that those panels are, as we saw somewhere else, merely fabric that's been painted. Just a little close up in the afternoon sun. I want to look closely at that panel up there. Looks like an eyeball, but it may just be the center of the universe, or the earth is the center of all that is, surrounded by the emperor's iconic dragons. It's interesting that their architecture and iconography does not include normally normal animals or humans, unlike the Thai or the Cambodian at Angkor Wat. It's the reverse, although it had a tremendous amount of design like the Muslim would have.